Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Writers Podcast. I have with me today writer Bob Brill. Hello, Bob. How are you doing?
Hey, it's really good. I'm having it was a late night last night, so excuse the facial hair and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But
Well, I've got the same thing
probably
going
no,
on. As I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
we're
But
very
you're
casual here, so we're
I get
just
off.
two
I used
gross.
to get off at 5 o'clock in the morning from
Yeah, well,
radio, and by the time, and it's kind of the weather here has not been really great, so it was a
uh,
little overnight.
you live in California, don't you?
Yeah, the greater LA.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you don't know what bad weather is. I'm up in
Uh,
North. I'm up in Canada, in Alberta. It's like
I,
minus 10 right
last
now.
week
So,
the house shook, so I know what earthquakes are.
oh, okay, very good. All right, so we're here to talk about your latest book, which is what's the title?
5 seconds to die.
And what type of book is it?
It's fiction. It starts out as a film noir type book.
Okay.
Actually, I wrote it the first time I've ever done this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also a screenwriter, so I wrote this book to be a movie,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's based on the future, and that the guy to my right there, Casey Order, is
Mm-hmm.
a private investigator who used to be a reporter, and this is like he's early in his job now. And the woman there, if you can see her,
Mm-hmm.
is a former B actress who hasn't done much in a long time, and they're both, as you could figure out the age groups there,
Mm-hmm.
and she brings um, a plot to him that she overheard from her boyfriend, who is no longer her boyfriend because he is the head of one of the most terrible Armenian mobs in the greater LA area. And
Mm.
basic story is he put together a coalition of criminal gangs from around the world, some of the worst gangs you'd ever want to meet, and even one that I created. And basically what happens is they're going to attempt to hack the 2028 Olympics to the tune
Oh,
of $82 billion.
wow.
And that sounds kind of high, but then you figure the people that go to the Olympics are also kings, queens, presidents, and defense ministers who may have a nuclear code. If they get hacked, their personal stuff, nuclear codes could be out there, and these guys could
Mm-hmm.
really, do some damage. So, and it becomes an international chase story because everything's on a flash drive that they steal, and
Okay.
all gangs are after them, and they're trying to get back to LA. That's the basic story.
Okay. Well, you'll need to work on an elevator pitch, though. That's a little long.
Yeah.
So I'm reading your biography, and I can tell by just what you're covering in your book there that you're a radio broadcaster, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And what kind of broadcasting do you do?
Well, for the last 30 some odd years, strictly news.
Okay.
I've been doing it for 53 years. And
Wow.
I got into it right out of high school. Basically, I wanted to be a sportscaster if I couldn't play sports. I wanted to play
Right.
baseball, and that was
Mm.
my whole goal in life. And so I figured if I couldn't play baseball, the next closest thing would be to be a play-by-play announcer, which I did get to do some. But I was a sportscaster as well through much of my career at the network level as well as the local level. And
Hmm.
so basically for the last 30 years or so, I've been mainly strictly doing news as a newscaster. And
Okay. And I've seen you've won multiple awards, including the Edward R. Murrow Award for
our
broadcasting.
award was nice. Yeah, it was sort of a team award
Okay.
here. I work at KNX News Radio in Los Angeles, which is the only all news radio station now that's left in LA. So
Wow. That's a dying genre.
it's weird because it's sort of coming back, and it's sort of
Oh,
coming
okay.
in a way that because of streaming. You know,
Mm. Right.
it does have its moments as far as you think, layoffs and everything, it's going to die. But,
Hmm.
people can stream every radio station in the world now. And So, I mean, I could be sitting here now listening to KNX and hearing myself on stories that I've done,
Right.
call it up anytime. So there's more of an emphasis on streaming. And
Yeah.
before we get the Nielsen numbers or whatever service we were using, and now they look more toward the streaming numbers because there's generally about 10 million people in Los Angeles in the general area, but
Hmm.
and that's in terrestrial radio, that's all you could reach. But
Hmm.
well, more than that because you can pick it up on a skip. I mean, you can pick us up about almost 200 miles away and
Right.
in a little bit. But with streaming, you may be able to get 100 million people,
Hmm.
listening at different times. But
Sure.
that's the way it is.
Yeah, I've seen that for myself, like on YouTube, you can find clips from all the major
Mhm.
cable shows, and then there's a lot of former cable anchors that have gone on to start up their own personal channels, like
Right.
like Bill
And
O'Reilly
YouTube,
or
YouTube's really
uh,
pushed that, and
Mark Como or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Anyhow,
YouTube that.
that's a whole nother discussion. That's very interesting.
For
But
sure.
I see that because you live in LA,
Uh-huh.
you're pretty plugged into the entertainment industry, I would imagine, even though you're
Somewhat.
doing news.
Try to
Uh,
be.
yeah, yeah.
It
So
too broadened because of the internet. So
yeah, I mean, reading your bio again, you've survived earthquakes, and you were actually beaten during the 1992 LA riots.
yeah,
That must have been interesting, to say the least.
to say the least. Yeah, I was actually, and that's something you can find on YouTube, believe it or not.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, and matter of fact, it basically what happened is I was covering the story for I was a full time person at UPI Radio Network. I was a
Hmm.
bureau here in LA, and through a system of circumstances, I got farmed out as well to NBC Radio. And so I was actually the broadcast that happened was NBC, but both UPI and NBC claim it.
Hmm.
It's not a big deal, and it was about 18 seconds. I was actually at a payphone off the corner of Florence and Normandy when
Mm.
Reginald Denny drove into the intersection and was attacked. He was the truck driver that you see with the long hair and
Right,
the focus of the start of the LA riots in '92, in the after the Rodney King thing, and
right.
basically I got attacked from behind. I was on the phone. I was on a pay. It was when we had payphones. We didn't have really
Yeah,
phones,
yeah.
and so I cell phone. I'd have been in my car and been hidden more. This I was right out in a. It was one of those stand-up payphones. Not a
Hmm.
booth, not a Superman booth, but a stand-up.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you
On
mean.
the
Yep.
street. And somebody distracted me. I came out from behind it, and somebody came up behind me with a full 32 beer bottle, 32-ounce beer bottle, whacked me on the head, and I
Wow.
went down. And then they started kicking me or punching me. I don't know. Uh,
Mm.
I had covered my mouth. I did the first thing a good radio reporter should do, and so I did that, and so I saved my teeth and I saved my lips, but I got a punctured eardrum. Uh,
Oh, geez.
my uh, and bruises and scratches, and cuts and that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And I used to wear glasses and busted my glasses up, and then they stole my tape recorder, so I don't even have a record of that.
Mm.
And until recently, and I'm talking the last 6 months, I've
Hmm.
always had to deal with a little bit of pain in my neck from that, and we're going back to 1992, so we're talking um, 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, until recently, it just my doctors and I have decided it's come back to roost,
Mm.
and so now I'm facing some more serious issues with my neck, and
Mm.
started back to physical therapy just yesterday, actually, and
Oh, wow.
so it's been um, a little bit of a thorn in my side. It to the point where it was a little pain that I just kind of ignored it to the best of
Hmm.
my ability, and but now it's starting to come back and be an issue. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. My doctors tell me that with physical therapy should be much better, but
Mm.
seven vertebrae or stops and the C numbers. They told me, yeah, the one's good, the other six are crap. So
Oh,
we'll have to
shit.
see what happens. And
Hmm.
it's part of what has been my heritage, so to speak.
And I imagine maybe even if it's subconsciously, it must have works its way into your writing as well. But
Yeah, it does.
mhm.
I write in various genres. I'm writing in a Western series where I've got 7 of the 10 planned books are out.
Mm. Okay.
I have a baseball memoir about growing up in um, playing baseball, and it's a relationship book. It's not so much a baseball, but coaches, friends, parents,
Mhm.
family members. That it's a really and the games we used to play when we couldn't be on the field. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
so it was that, and then I've got a book called No Barrier, which talks about all the jobs that are no longer available because of the internet. Uh,
Okay.
and God, what else have I got? And like I said, 7 books that are of the Western series, and all told now, I've written 16, and 15 are published, and this
Wow.
this being the latest. And I don't know if this is going to be a series or not. It all depends on how it's received. And I did write
Mm.
one other very complicated book. It's another detective story based in Ventura, California, about a good-looking cop, and who's not me, by the way. Uh, and he's he's got a lot of women, and
Mm.
maybe it's one of those things. Hey, that would like to be me, but
Right.
it's don't tell my wife about
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
uh, she hears enough of me. She rarely listens to podcasts and stuff like that I'm
Right.
on because she sees me every day.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've written 16 books. One I have not published it. It's a children's book, and I'm
Mm.
sort of kind of waiting on that till this one goes through, and then I have to write another Lancer, which is the Western, and I'm thinking about doing a second one of the other book. The other book took me 10 years to do. Most
I'm
books take me 2 months to
okay.
write.
What was the other book that
Uh,
you're talking?
it it's can't think of the name of it. The Tattoo Murder. Yeah, the
Okay.
Tattoo Murder, and it basically it's very deep plot. It goes all over the place, and it is about an Italian American cop who lives in Ventura, California. All things that I have done except the cop part, and
Mhm.
uh, he has many women. He's sort of like I guess the best way to describe him is, and I've done this before, is he's sort of like a local James Bond,
Right.
and
Right.
but he has his main squeeze, but he's also very popular among other women.
Mm.
But it took me 10 years to write because while I wrote it, when I first decided to write that book, when I wrote it, I made it probably a little too sexy
Mm.
and probably a little too graphic. And my daughter said, "I can't read this. My dad wrote this." That's going to be the first chapter. My sister said, "Are you kidding me?" Um, and my wife at the time, we were going through a divorce, so it didn't really matter. But it was it took a long time, and then I had a psychiatrist friend of mine. Not that I was a patient; she's just a very good friend, and she
Mhm.
read it, and she said, "Bob, you got to get this book out there. I love this book." And I kept saying, "Yeah, yeah, sure, doc, sure, sure, sure."
Mhm.
And but 9 years later, close to 10, I said, "You know what? Why not?" And so I
Mhm.
went through, I toned it down. I probably spent more time on that book than any book I've ever written or series of books.
Right.
And it's out there. It's called The Tattoo Bird. It's got a great cover. I don't have a copy of it handy right here, but it. Oh, I do, but I'd have to get up and reach for it, and you probably don't want me to do that. So it's a good book. It really is. It's a deep plot and multiple plots, and there is a sequel planned if I ever get
Mm.
to it. And that sequel is actually based on a case that I covered when I was a reporter in Fresno,
Okay.
California, and it's based in that, but it goes so much more abroad. And I don't mean
Mm.
abroad Europe. I mean abroad as far as the crimes, and there a lot of them are sexual crimes. So uh,
Mm.
it gets kind of devious, but it's in my head
Right.
right now, and I know it's there, and it'll come out at some point when I decide to put my fingers to the keyboard.
Right. So, listening to you recount all the various projects that you've been working on, and that I'm curious about when you were growing up in that. Were you a big reader?
At one point, I was. Junior high
Hmm.
school, I read a lot.
Okay.
High school, I barely read.
Hmm.
Elementary school, I read what was required. But once I hit junior high, I read a lot. I mean, I was
Hmm.
always in the school library checking out books, and I love the American Civil War. I've always been an American Civil War buff,
Mm.
and I used to read a lot of books based on the American Civil War, both sides,
Mm.
and of course anything baseball that I could get my hands on. At
Right.
the time, it was much more difficult, and now it's like, you want to read a book, to be 10 seconds. I'll find
Hmm.
it.
Right.
Yeah, I outside of that, I for some reason in high school, I kind of stopped reading, and I
Hmm.
don't really know why. To be honest with you, I really can't
So
answer that.
it's a big period of change for us all.
Yeah,
Mm,
I think so. You get more into girls, you get more into
yeah.
sports. You're at
Yeah.
high school level sports and things like that. You're thinking about your career and what you want to be. And I wanted to be in radio, and you know,
Hmm.
geez, radio guys, did they read? So,
Right.
outside of reading what you're reading on the air.
Yeah. So, how did you approach fiction then? Because from your background, you were doing most reality or news type reporting, which is supposed to be based on facts and supposed to be very um, dispassionate, I guess you could say, sort of hands removed. Of course, that's changed over the last 5 or 10 years, or even more, with more media outlets being much more opinionated in that. But
Right.
still, the translation from basically what you're doing as nonfiction type work to fiction, do you find that transition difficult, or how did you
Not at
go
all.
about doing that?
Actually, it's like one of my editors said, you like to write fiction because you can make stuff up. I
Right.
made up one of those words, but he and you can. I mean, when it comes to fiction in today's world,
Hmm.
all bets are off. I mean,
Right.
there's things that you'll read in 5 seconds to die. You'll say, "Oh, come on,"
Hmm.
but they're feasible
Yeah.
and possible and probable.
Hmm.
Maybe,
Yeah.
um, but and you can take more chances with
Sure.
nonfiction. I mean, with fiction,
Right.
and like I said, we went through on her picture. And I kind of look at her as almost like looking like Michelle Pfeiffer. Uh,
Okay.
we went through 10 generations of getting her right. We had red hair. We had, matter of fact, in the opening line in the book, she has red hair.
Mm.
And then I stop, cross that out, and this is all in the book still. I start,
Mm.
now that sounds really corny. Let me change that. And then I start writing again. So you have
Right.
like a paragraph of where I started writing and didn't like what I was writing and started again, and I changed her to a blonde.
Mm.
I took it from Paris to Hollywood, and so that's kind of where I went. And with him, the went through several generations as well. I
Mm.
sat with my publisher who does Susan Catt of Oracle Books. I sat with her on the phone and or on the computer, and we went through several uh, ideas and things to try to make this right. And if you look here, just off my right ear,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, everything's backwards. I'm like, yeah, those are some of the bad guys,
Okay.
and those are some of the gang leaders, and in a way, and I wanted them sort of in a distance, and
Hmm.
Susan came up with a great cover. I love it, and everybody's
Right.
said that too. Um, and they're mob bosses. That's what they are. And there's like
Okay.
10 gangs, 10 mobs that have all come together in this sort of very, very fractured and very fragile coalition. I mean,
Hmm.
people wouldn't ever expect Aryans and Mexican mafia. I mean, these guys hate each other. They hate.
Right.
I mean, in the same room, they'd both be dead.
Right.
But he puts them
Right.
together. And
Yeah.
then there's a Russian group, and there's a Armenian group, and I even created one. Created a lesbian mob group, you know,
Mm.
and what I did with this book, I started it in the last couple of books. What I did in this book, and I'm claiming it as my own. It's mine. You know, anybody copies it, either I can't sue them over something like this, but if I could, I would. Um,
Right.
and that is, I have taken a lot of the characters and given them the names of friends of mine.
Oh, with your
Uh,
friend's permission, I hope.
yeah, yeah, no, I call them. I say, hey, look, or I send them an email. Do you mind? And one of them is a former DEA agent.
Mm.
Another one is a good friend in Scotland. Four of the girls are all sisters, who are actual sisters of one of my best friends, who has since
Mm.
passed away in Italy, named Mario Marino, who I love dearly. And and I have friends in Scotland who are in the book. And in the last book, um, the last Western, uh, what I did was the bad sheriff. I asked one of the guys at work. And I said,
Hmm.
Art Sanders. I said, would you like to be in the book? And he's a fan of mine. And he says, oh, I'd love to be in the book. And I said, okay. And I said, this is what I got for you. He goes, yeah. I said, could you change my name to Little Art Sanders? And I said, oh, okay, I know where you're going with this. And yeah, sure. And so I told him he's also coming back in a later book. So he's thrilled.
Oh,
And,
okay.
I found out the one thing, and the thing I like about this is um, it endears people that I know to the books. And,
Right.
and it's not that most of the time I give them a copy, because they're in the book, I
Sure.
give them a free copy. Um,
Yep.
but maybe they'll buy another one, and they have. And that's good. And it helps. And any sale in books today helps because it's
Sure.
not the easiest thing to do. And
No.
as far as, selling them, but it's made it more fun for me too,
Hmm.
because in writing the character, I think of the traits of my friends, and sometimes they get kind of deep in it, and other times it's just their name, you know.
Hmm.
And one of the members of one of the gangs, actually two that I can think of, are both um, kind of good but nasty people. And
Mm.
when I usually ask for permission, what I'll do is I'll say, "You want to be a good guy, or you want to be a bad guy?" And
Right.
9 times out of 10, I want to be the nastiest SOB on the planet. So, which is all okay. You asked for it, you got it, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I was thinking more from in terms of writing fiction, like have to did you have a learning curve with pacing and a three-act structure, or I don't know if you use a three-act structure,
You
but
know,
like and try like maybe multiple plots. Do you always include a romance? Like do you create flawed characters? Like did all that stuff come to easy
yeah,
to you
yeah,
as
oh,
well?
definitely, yeah, and I think you have to. I mean, um, multiple plots helps,
Hmm.
mainly because it gets you as the writer out of the story, because now you're taking different directions. Because a lot of times I'll find myself writing, and all of a sudden it's me, and I don't want it to be me. I want it to be some other person with my insights. And as far as you know, I'm going to say something here, and I probably am going to regret it. When it comes to the three-act structure, I don't think I've ever done that on purpose. You
Okay.
know, um, I mean, Aristotle and everybody since has always, pressed that. And for some reason, I just never got. I look at it this way: I'm not going to limit myself to three acts. I just write good stories. And
Okay.
I have I'll be honest with you, on my phone in the memory, in the voice memory, I've probably got about 10 books that I want to write that I'll never get to, that I've laid
Hmm.
out. I didn't lay out a story yesterday that I just, maybe it's my background, maybe it's my
Hmm.
freakish mind, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that I've covered so many stories in my life as a reporter and in radio and in some in print, um, that I just have great stories in my mind,
Right.
and I write. I think I write good stories, and I kind of don't want to be. And maybe it's better for the reader, but I don't want to be. um, channeled into 3 acts. Now, if I'm writing a play, and I may do that very soon here, I'm thinking about it. I would obviously have to do a 1 act play, or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, or and even when I've done films, it's probably more the short films that I've done by osmosis, just being a 3 act film, or 3 act
Okay.
story. But I've never kind of laid it out that way, and I know I draw a lot of could draw a lot of criticism for that, but you know, eggs are made to be broken. That's the way I look at it.
Very good. Now, I would imagine that based on your career, that a lot of what you've covered eventually ends up as something that you use in your books.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times it's just an idea. Uh,
Hmm.
I literally I get my best stories, and a lot of my books are from driving down the road.
Oh,
Uh, Driving for some reason, and maybe it's because I live in LA and have for so many years where we're on the road all the time. But I do a lot of thinking, and I literally have had to pick up my phone and kind of hide it a little bit so the cops don't see you holding the phone while I'm driving. I'll get an idea, and I want to get it down and out of my head and down somewhere so that I can remember it later. And what I'll do is I'll just use the voice recorder and record 30-second blurb of the story, and then save it so I have something. Um,
hmm,
but you know, uh, I would say some of the time. Now with the westerns, maybe there's something there. I don't know. Um, the and, the upcoming book that I'm going to write after the tattoo murder, that's definitely based on a case that I covered. And I guess some of the stuff that I do write is based on things that I've covered. Well, actually, come to think of it, 5 Seconds to Die. I It's based in Hollywood, based in LA, so I use a lot of obvious references,
sure.
and stuff from covering stories in Hollywood that I will pick out bits and pieces. Although, um, let's see, there was one book that no, I'll leave it at that. So
Okay. So your latest book, as we mentioned off the top of the show, is 5 Seconds to Die. Is this the first book with these characters?
yes, yes,
Okay.
and I haven't decided yet. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna wait to see how the book does. If the
Sure.
book receives good reviews and actually sells, I will probably bring back Casey Order at least. Whether I bring back Ginger Queen, who is the woman in the picture, or
Hmm.
not, I don't know. I kind of don't want to do that. Maybe she comes back at a later time in another book. I kind of want him to have fresh, um, not so much
Adventures.
romances, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to say they got into a romance.
Hmm.
If you read the book, you'll find out whether they did or not. Uh,
Hmm.
and he is in a position where he obviously wouldn't turn it down, but at the same time, it's not really what he's into. He's trying to break into this new career and do it right,
Okay.
'cause he's a reporter turned private investigator.
Oh,
So,
okay.
uh, so whether she could, in the next book in the series, probably not, because he has a secretary or executive assistant. Uh,
Hmm.
he has that who's female, and she is his, um, I guess, his muse. They're not
Hmm.
romantically involved and won't be. Matter of fact, I found a guy for her in the closing chapters and hooked her up, so to speak. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, when it comes down to it, I guess uh, future books there'll be. Well, one of the latest Lancer book I created took a character from the past that I had not introduced before that I may reintroduce
Okay.
again. So yeah, I'm never going to say no, but generally speaking, it's not in the plan.
Okay. And so what are you working on right now?
Uh, Getting this book sold. As
Hmm.
far as getting it out there, we have a book signing coming up here very shortly, and that's been mainly what I've been, getting ready to do. And
Hmm.
then once I get that out there, um, as far as getting it rolling and putting some publicity into it, I will start the next Lancer book, which will be the title of the Western series is Lancer, Hero of the West, the
Hmm.
Something Affair. And the first one is the Prescott Affair. It takes place in Prescott, Arizona. The second one's the Los Angeles Affair. This next one's probably going to be the San Francisco Affair. He works out of Tombstone in Arizona in the 1880s, and he knows
Okay.
Leiter and Doc Holliday and all those guys, and they're friends. And he works out of there sort of as a rich detective type guy. Uh,
Okay.
did quite a bit in his past. He was a cavalry officer and things like that, and it is also more of a detective story, I guess, set in the Old West. And he goes to these different cities to help people, and that's
Hmm.
where he takes place. So what I used to do and how I got started in doing that was every April we had in Santa Clarita, which is on the edge of LA County, and at the William S. Hart Ranch, who was a TV or excuse me, Western movie hero in the silent era. Um, we would there was always it was a weekend for the Cowboy Festival, the Santa Clarita Cowboy Festival, and when I was invited to go to do that, I wrote a book for it, and every April I would try to have a new Western book out to present there, and some people came and they were looking for it, which was kind of cool, and
Hmm.
we did fairly well up there. For It was me and a bunch of other authors for the 2 days, Western authors. It was just all Westerns, and the camaraderie and the future developments. Matter of fact, one of them is Eric Heisner, who goes by EJ. It's EJ Heisner now. Is the bad guy in my short film, Sundown, and I've done 4 short films and 1 pilot film called The Adventures of Taekwondo Martial Arts Detective. So, which is a comedy, by the way. But the Western that I did, it's like 9 minutes. It's out there on YouTube and places like that. It's really a good show. And one of the Western authors, Eric, played the bad guy,
Hmm.
and that all. As a matter of fact, everybody was involved with that except one guy, 2 guys were stemmed from meeting them at the Cowboy Festival. So it became a
Right.
really good thing, and I would do one every year until COVID hit. Then they just stopped doing it, and or else
Hmm.
I'd finished. I'd have all 10 out there if COVID hadn't hit. So
Mm. Okay. Well, you sound like a busy guy. So,
yeah, my wife says I'm too busy, so
yeah, I bet.
rather keep.
Uh, so you can find your books at the either on your website or the
Yeah,
normal
yeah.
places like Amazon and so forth.
All the books are on bobbrillbooks.com,
Hmm.
and you can go there and you can find every one of my books there, and you can order. And I physically send those books out. So if I usually sign them, no
Okay.
extra charge or anything. And if people don't want them signed, they need to send me a note or whatever. Um, and so I sell those directly there from my inventory.
Okay.
They can also be found at oraclebooks.com and also on Amazon. I think the ebook until the 25th of March of this year, 2025, the
Hmm.
ebook is available. I think the physical books are available after that, but you can buy them from me. It's if you want a physical book, that's not a big deal.
Sure. Sure.
And any appearance that I make, I mean, I'm going to be doing a book signing at Run Out Groove Records on the 21st, which I don't know if this is going to air after that or before that. So
Okay.
um, if it airs after that, you missed it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, this will be out in a couple of
yeah,
days. So,
Burbank, California.
yeah.
Um,
Very
but
good.
yeah, so the easiest place, and actually the way I actually prefer, unless you can buy
Hmm.
a digital book, obviously, is I prefer to have people buy them off my website directly from me. I get a little more
Okay.
contact with the readers, and it's you know I make a few more
Hmm.
bucks that way too. So.
Sure. Sure. With all the books you have, you must have either a warehouse or a big garage.
Don't even talk to me about my garage. My garage is so freaking full of stuff. No, I own a baseball card store, so I've got
Oh, okay.
jeans.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you have on your shelf behind you is a tiny, tiny bit of what I
Yeah.
just in my office or
Very,
in
very
the
cool.
garage. Get it? It's like
Yeah.
needs a
Okay.
and I have
Well,
a snap blocker too. So I mean, what can I tell you?
yeah, there you go. Well, it's been a blast talking to you, Bob. Is there anything that else you want to mention that hasn't come up?
Not really. I really enjoyed this, Lou, and
Good.
this has been fun.
Yeah.
And again,
I
I
think we could go
apologize
for hours, but
for it.
you've got a lot of stuff on the go. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I
So maybe
know.
next time
Yeah,
we'll talk about some other stuff.
you got it. And
Yeah.
again, I apologize for the beard. It was like,
Hey, man,
it,
got one here.
yeah, but yours is full. Mine gets that way in about 5 days. So,
Oh, okay.
but I usually don't shave for a few days because I work the overnights, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
or the nights, and it's like nobody sees me. And it's,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
I remember those graveyard shift
up
days
in 10 minutes. To do this.
when I was younger. But then when I was that age, I couldn't really grow a beard. So.
Yeah, I never had a problem. I had a high school coach. I was 12 years old and just got into junior high. And he says, "When are you going to shave, Brill?" What? He goes, "You're gonna have to shave that mustache." I said, "What?" Oh yeah. It's been a blessing and it's been a curse at times too. So.
Yeah, yeah. No, the problem is the hair grows in the wrong parts of the body now as you get
Yeah,
older.
don't even get me started.
Yeah. Okay, sir. It's been a blast talking to you. I wish you all the best with all your projects. And now your next book comes out. Glad to have you back on and talk about that
Sure.
one.
Be a pleasure.
All right. Take care now. And thanks for your time.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay. Take care now. Bye-bye.